Yo, what is up, doggies? It's your boy Beanie and today I'd like to talk about some legendary horror franchises. Horror franchises are just some of the most interesting shit to me. Like, everyone nowadays, they're talking about the Marvel franchise, the Marvel universe, but like, fuck that shit. I'm talking Friday the 13th universe. I'm talking Nightmare on Elm Street universe. I'm talking the Evil Dead universe. Like it's just way more hype. Ghosts and ghouls they're the most dope things. So, horror franchises, they go hard. And me personally, I've seen just about every horror movie and every horror franchise, and I've watched a couple extra just for this video. So in this video, I'd like to rank every single one of the horror franchises on a tier list and, go in depth about these franchises and these movies, talk about some shit that I like, some shit that I don't like, maybe make a couple jokes along the way. It's going to be a grand old time. So, let's just get right into this. It's time to make the official tier list for the horror movie franchises. Now, to keep you guys engaged in this video, we're going to start off with an absolute heater. I'm talking Friday the 13th. This is definitely the most iconic horror franchise, and for good reason too. This franchise revolutionized the slasher horror genre. The success of this film and franchise inspired numerous horror cliches, like having a final girl, having a lot of scenes of sex and gore, and most notably having a slasher killer as your antagonist. After Friday the 13th was released, there were tons of other horror slasher movies that were very clearly directly inspired by Friday the 13th. And I mean for good reason too. People like to imitate greatness, and I mean Friday the 13th, that is clearly greatness. Like, not only did the first Friday the 13th movie start basically a whole new genre, the sequels also really do just get better and better. I mean, to a certain point at least. Like I definitely say the movies kind of start to get a little bit worse after the sixth one, and there's definitely a couple duds in the mix, but you'd be hard pressed to find a Friday the 13th fan, and I mean like a big Friday the 13th fan that's favorite movie is the first one. Like it just doesn't happen. Like the sequels are fucking gas. I mean, there's fucking 12 Friday the 13th movies, and each one feels fresh, unique, and different, and just has something you can love about it, except for maybe Jason Takes Manhattan, and the one where he fights the telekinesis chick. I haven't seen that one in years, and I'm not even going to rewatch it for this video, because I just remember that one's ass. Like, I don't need to rewatch it, alright? Like, how did this shit get made? I genuinely do not understand. But I mean, most of these movies absolutely slap. Now, for you guys to really understand how great this franchise is, the only thing I can really do is just quickly go over each one of these movies. And I'm going to try to do this pretty quickly because, I could really talk about each one of these movies for hours. But I got all these other horror franchises to rank after, so, we're trying to keep this quick and compact, So let's get into this. Starting with the first Friday the 13th. Now, this one, it's just a classic, it inspired a whole new genre of horror, all that jazz. Honestly, in my opinion, the first one, it really doesn't compare to the sequels. Like, I mean, it's a fun time, good characters, some cool gruesome kills, Kevin Bacon, it has some good stuff about it. But, compared to its sequels, it's kind of boring, I ain't gonna lie. Part 2, on the other hand, it's kind of just a better version of the first. Like, it's kind of like the same vibe, but, everything's just more epic. Like, there's more kills, and I'd say the kills are more unique. Along with Jason just being way more epic in this film. Like in the first one, it's all, point of view shots, and you don't really know who the killer is, and there's this whole twist thing. I'm not going to get into that, but the second one, you got Jason with a bag over his head just running around like a madman, and it's epic. Like, this man's barging through windows, grabbing people. Like it's in this film that you really get to see how epic Jason is, and for that, this film is far more epic than the first. Now for part 3, this one kind of goes the more stoner or slapstick comedy route. This whole movie feels very goofy and also just has way too many 3D gags. But a goofy movie that also has Jason running around killing people is still a pretty fun time, I'm not gonna lie. Like, a lot of the comedy in this movie is very campy and, a little cringe, but, I kind of like the vibe. It gives you a nice little, like, lighthearted feel with just Jason just going around and basically just gruesomely murdering every single person. Like, it makes for an interesting dynamic. Fun fact, this is also the film where Jason actually gets his hockey mask, so, it's kind of a must-watch. And also, it's a must-watch because Shelly is one of the greatest characters in the whole entire Friday the 13th franchise, and if you disagree with that, like, you gotta rewatch this film because Shelly is hilarious.
It's my bag. I'll take care of it.
Shelly, what are you doing in there? Why aren't you down at the lake with everybody else?
Oh, they said they were going skinny dipping, and I'm not skinny enough.
Part 4 is my personal favorite. It's not as goofy and absurd as the third, but it's still a guaranteed wild and wacky time. Epic kills and cool practical effects are really what I look most forward to in a Friday the 13th movie. And I mean, this movie just has the best of both of those. I mean, just take a look at how gruesome these kills are. Like, tell me that shit ain't gnarly, though those are some gruesome practical effects. And on top of having the best kills, this movie also just has the best characters. Like, they got a young Corey Feldman in this movie who's like obsessed with monsters and shit, like it's just fire. And on top of that, they got the dad from Back to the Future, like must I say more?
Would you care to dance? It's good. Oh, good.
Like, come on, bro, he's the absolute man. Like, are you seeing these dance moves? Part 5. Now, the idea for this one is kind of epic because it continues the storyline from the fourth one. Corey Feldman is back, and, in this one, he's faced a lot of trauma from Jason, and he's sent to a wilderness camp full of basically insane people. And while Jason is obviously coming to this wilderness insane asylum, so, the plot, it's very heat, I'm not gonna lie. On paper, it sounds fire, but the execution is kind of weak, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really care about any of the characters this time around. I mean, Corey Feldman was cool in the first one when he was a little kid, but by this movie, he's older, and, he's not like a cute kid anymore, and he's just a fucking goof. Like, I really don't care for him, and there's no other good characters in this movie. They try to introduce another kid, to, serve that role again, and he's kind of goated, but, he's no Corey Feldman. And also, the end of this movie is just fucking garbage. Like, there's a lame-ass twist, and then the movie still goes on, after that. I'm not gonna get into it because I don't want to spoil it, but that shit pisses me off. Fuck this movie. Part 6. This film is the final part of the Corey Feldman storyline, and it has probably one of the most epic intros out of any of the Friday the 13th. In the beginning of this film, Corey Feldman tries to go to Jason's grave to, make sure he's really dead, and in the process, he ends up bringing him back to life. I don't know, I just really love this opening. It's some Frankenstein shit, and it's just epic. And while this whole movie is just filled with a ton of epic scenes, based off kills alone, this is by far the best Friday the 13th in my opinion. The kills in this one aren't as gruesome and, as cool practical effects as the fourth, but they're all just unique and hilarious. Everyone Jason kills in this movie is just so goofy, or you just want to see them die because they're just so hateable. Just take a look at this example.
Dumb broad, she tricked me. Guys are gonna laugh for months. She should have stayed in the kitchen where she belongs. A woman shouldn't even be allowed in these games. Not a game, it's life.
My man Jason in this one kills a bunch of people doing a reenactment war. Clearly that's gonna be epic. All the kills are just epic, hilarious scenes. The only real issue with this movie is it's very fucking corny, and any scene that doesn't have Jason, the whole Corey Feldman bit where he's locked in prison, which, I didn't even get into because, fuck that. All that shit's just kind of mid to me. But, if you don't expect these movies to get corny by the sixth one, I don't know what you're expecting. Part 7. Now, in the beginning of this video, I already said I'm not going to rewatch this movie because it's not fucking good. Jason fights a telekinesis girl. Why? Why did they do this? I don't know. I have nothing really to say about this movie because I don't really remember it. I just remember thinking, why? Part 8. I used to really hate this one because it's called Jason Takes Manhattan, but the whole fucking movie is on a boat, and only the last 10 minutes Jason actually gets to Manhattan. But I ain't gonna lie, the last 10 minutes where he actually gets to Manhattan are kind of epic. Come on. But I can't lie, besides the final 10 minutes, this movie is just extremely mid.
It's mid to mid.
It's boring characters and lazy writing. I don't know, this could be the worst Friday the 13th, I'm not gonna lie. Part 9. Alright, this one gets a lot of hate of people saying it's the worst movie, but honestly, I heavily disagree. Now, I get where the hate is coming from because the movie quite literally doesn't even have Jason in it. He dies in the first 10 minutes. So yeah, they literally kill Jason in the very beginning of this movie, and it's also definitely very epic. Like, they literally trick him into getting the whole entire US Army to just unleash every single thing they have on him. Like, very cool opening scene. And the rest of the movie is about his soul taking over other people's bodies, and well, the plot is insane, and as well as this movie has some of the most insane scenes that you would never expect to see in a Friday the 13th film. But honestly, I just like this one that it feels fresh and different. Like when you're watching all these movies in order and you come to the 9th film, like, you kind of enjoy this one. You don't really want to see the same thing over and over again. And this movie is just pure and utter ridiculousness. I think it's actually kind of gas. Like, I ain't gonna lie. And also, the Jason Bounty Hunter is really an all-time great character. Like, he goes in top 5 Friday the 13th characters, no doubt. Jason X. Now, this one takes place in the future and Jason is in space, so as you would expect, it's some wacky shit. And while this isn't really a movie that the critics would enjoy, I'd say for the dogs, this movie definitely hits. I mean, it's Jason in space. He's killing people with cryo-freeze and shit. Like, it's epic. Now, I will say this movie does kind of feel like it was made on a budget of like $150, but they really make the most out of that $150. Like, they do some wild and wacky sci-fi stuff that's just cool to see in this movie. As well as I love the ending where they go back to the original Crystal Lake with like their wacky technology or whatever. It definitely makes for a very satisfying finish to the series. Now, there's technically 2 more films in the franchise, Freddy vs. Jason and the remake, but I'm just going to go over these ones extra quick because they don't really count. Freddy vs. Jason is kind of epic, but it's kind of only epic because it's Freddy vs. Jason. Like, they should have done better with this one, but Freddy vs. Jason, you can't really miss. The Friday the 13th remake is actually one of the most slept on movies of all time, I swear. Like, out of all the old horror movie franchises that they decided to remake new films for, this is by far the best, and I don't know why they haven't made a sequel to it. But yeah, after going over all these films, you can clearly see with the amount of bangers that they made in this franchise, it's just truly absurd. And there's also a nice little overarching storyline, or at least somewhat. It definitely gets a little bit crazy by the end, but it just makes for such a fun franchise to get into, and it's definitely one of my favorites, and without a doubt, this one's going into S tier. Alright, the next horror franchise I'd like to take a look at is The Final Destination. Now, if you're not familiar with the Final Destination franchise, it's basically a series where in the beginning of each film, someone will have like a vision of them and a bunch of other people dying in like a natural way, like a plane crash, a bridge collapsing, or in one of them there's like a whole ass roller coaster accident. They do something fun and wild. So yeah, then after the main character, wakes up from this vision, they end up saving themselves amongst just all the other people around them from this accident, and, they don't die. But, since they were supposed to die and they technically cheated death, that's kind of a no bueno in the cycle of life. So, they all naturally just start dropping dead in wild and wacky ways. And well, that's the plot to all the Final Destination movies, and I mean, honestly, it's a pretty fire plot. Like, I can see why they made 5 of these movies. Like, definitely a very unique idea. there's no other horror movies that are like Final Destination, and you can't really say that about a lot of horror movies. It seems like they all kind of do the same thing, and Final Destination, it feels fresh. And I mean, mostly, they're just fun movies. Like, the main reason anyone would ever watch Final Destination is you want to watch people die in wild and wacky ways. And this series really does a fantastic job at that. The death scenes in these movies are always very suspenseful, as you as the audience know that the character is about to die. The director will make sure to show like what's about to kill them. Like in one of them, she's doing gymnastics and you see like a little screw on the balance beam, and you watch her do this gymnastics routine over it for like 2 minutes, and it's very suspenseful. Now, not every death is super long and suspenseful and drawn out like that. There are obviously some quick deaths where someone will just like walk in front of a bus or some shit like that.
Then you can just drop fucking dead.
The deaths in this movie, like the deaths in basically every horror movie, it's a certified good time, and it's just a great time, watching this, just knowing like, oh, they're gonna die in a wacky way, and then they do. Now, those are all the things I like about this franchise, but now let's get onto the stuff that I don't really like. And honestly, the main thing I don't like about these movies is the plot. And I know I said that I do like the plot, but I also don't like the plot. Maybe I'm just using the word plot wrong, but I like the idea that, they cheated death, and now death is gonna come back to kill them. But it's always kind of just like the characters are all completely hopeless. Like, there's no actual way to stop it. Like they always kind of find some bullshit that they like kind of think will work, but like, it's always dumb. Like, I feel like these movies always really fall apart in the third act. Like, I feel like they start off so strong with like, this great original idea, and then they just don't know how to finish it. Like, they always try to do like a mystery element where like the main character's figuring out clues of what's going on, but like in the end, the clues lead to nothing. There's no resolution to like the problem. Like, it never really feels like everything you learn really leads to like a good conclusion. Like the conclusion's always just ass, in my opinion. Another issue I have with this franchise is there's really just no legendary characters in any of these movies. Like there's really not any any big name actors or just like funny, memorable characters. Like, I swear the best character in this whole franchise is in the first movie, and it's fucking Stifler. And like if Stifler's the best character you get throughout your whole horror franchise, like, what does that say about you? Like, Friday the 13th gave us Kevin Bacon and Corey Feldman, Nightmare on Elm Street gave us Johnny Depp, and Final Destination gave us Stifler. It's nothing too great. And it's really not even like the actor's fault that there's no great characters in these movies. It's also really just like the writing. Like, the movie just feels like it has lazy writing, does a poor job of making you care about the characters or even care about like what's going on. It's just really a movie that you only watch to see people die in wild and wacky ways. But again, it does a fantastic job at that. Like, as long as you're not going into these movies expecting some critically acclaimed, mind-bending, deep, just like smart movie, like, you're gonna have a good time. These movies are always wild, wacky, and fun. Just don't expect them to really leave a lasting impression on you. Yeah, Final Destination movies, fun time, but undoubtedly a little bit mid. I'm definitely feeling C tier for this franchise. The next horror franchise I'd like to take a look at is an absolute banger, and that is Nightmare on Elm Street. Nightmare on Elm Street is another one of those horror franchises that just has such a great idea. Like, it's a very unique spin on the horror slasher genre. Because, Freddy Krueger, he always kills these kids in their dreams, which, creates for a nice little supernatural element. And I mean, not just is it a creative and original idea, it's also executed very well. Even with the supernatural, wacky element of this film, this movie still feels very grounded and, it's still very dark and, a little bit spooky. Well, at least the first movie feels serious. The sequels might get a little bit ridiculous and wild. But I mean, they get ridiculous and wild in a fun way. Well, at least most of them do. The final two movies are pretty trash, I won't lie. But I'll talk about those movies a little bit later. First, let me quickly take you guys through each movie in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise so I can really just show you guys how epic these movies truly are. Now, the first movie, as I was saying before, is really the only one that's like serious and grounded. Like it's the only film in the franchise that both the critics and the common man would enjoy. Like, this first movie in the franchise is actually seriously a well-written, like well-paced, just all that nerd pretentious movie stuff. Like it has it. Like, it's a quality movie. Like, this movie's actually written very well. Like, I love how Freddy's origin story and like just what's going on is just slowly unveiled. Like, in this movie, the main character Nancy Thompson, when she first starts seeing Freddy Krueger in her dreams, she just thinks it's a nightmare. But throughout the movie, she sees more and more clues that this shit is real, as well as people start dying. And then once she finds out that he's real and is going to kill all of them in their dreams, she still struggles with the problem on how to stop him, what is he, and the fact that anyone besides Nancy and her friends isn't going to believe her about Freddy Krueger and just think that she's crazy. So it makes for a cool situation where it's just Nancy and her friends against Freddy Krueger, where they can't get help from parents, cops, or anyone. And this plot only thickens when you find out that Nancy's parents actually know who Freddy Krueger was, or at least knew who he was before he was like a dream demon or whatever the fuck he is. But now I'm getting into spoiler territory, and really the point I'm trying to make is just that this movie's fucking well written, dog. And also, Nancy Thompson is without a doubt my favorite final girl in any horror franchise. Like Nancy's just the GOAT. Like, if every horror franchise final girl was put into a room and sent to fight to the death, Nancy's definitely the one walking out of there. Oh yeah, and did I forget to add that this movie has fucking Johnny Depp in it? Like that's some heat. There's a lot more to this movie, and a lot more that I could definitely talk about, but for the sake of time and the sake of spoilers, I'm just gonna move on to the next one. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. Alright, now I'm gonna say something, and I don't want you guys to take it the wrong way, but this movie, it's so fucking gay. Like, it's the gayest movie I've ever seen. Like, it's not bad, but it's very gay. And I'm not saying gay in, like, a disrespectful way. Like this movie is just flat out queer. And if you guys think I'm being, like, disrespectful or something, let me just explain what this movie is like. To start off, unlike nearly every other horror movie where they have a final girl, this movie has a final guy. And well, this guy, he's constantly screaming and crying and, calling for his daddy. And that's fine, I get it, it's not too gay, like, I can understand, if I was dealing with Freddy Krueger, I'm probably also not gonna act in the most macho way. But also, no more than 20 minutes into this movie, you're hit with scenes like this.
Nice ass.
And if you guys still think that I'm just being judgmental, let me just break down the first death scene in this movie. Also, important note that I gotta add, in this movie they do some weird shit where instead of Freddy Krueger killing all the kids in their dreams, in this movie Freddy Krueger is trying to possess the body of the main character Jesse, which they also managed to make pretty gay.
I too, Jesse.
Like in the other movies, Freddy's trying to kill the kids. In this one, it looks like he's trying to fuck him. But regardless, Freddy ends up possessing the body of Jesse, and he makes him walk into a gay bar. And while at this gay bar, he meets his gym coach, who ends up bringing him back to the high school gym, where he makes him run laps. After this, he makes Jesse go take a shower.
Hit the shower.
And once, Jesse's hitting the showers, the gym coach, he goes back to his office, and Freddy possesses a bunch of balls to come out and hit him. After this, Freddy possesses a jump rope, and just watch what he does with this jump rope.
No! No! No!
And by now, I'm sure you guys understand that this movie's gay, but there is just one more scene that I have to show you guys. It's something special.
How do you like that, Dad?
Not only is this just the gayest scene in this whole movie, it's also the greatest scene in like the whole Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Are you seeing this shit? Like, dude, it's just. I'll get out of the way. So yeah, I must say it one more time, just in case you guys haven't really already picked up on it. But this movie, it's pretty gay. But over here on the Beanie Colin YouTube channel, we don't discriminate, and just because the movie's gay doesn't mean it's not a fun time. Like, this movie still has some dope practical effects. Still has Freddy Krueger being the man, and all the gay stuff in this movie is honestly probably the best part about this movie. Like, it's all so funny. The main thing I honestly just don't like about this movie is how it's all about how Freddy's trying to get into Jesse's body, opposed to how every other one is, where he just kills different kids in their nightmares. There's also just like a bunch of stupid scenes in this one, like when the bro has a nightmare of a snake, or when the fucking bird explodes. Like, this movie is just unintentionally hilarious. Like, it makes for a great horror comedy, but it's just such a weird Nightmare on Elm Street movie. And honestly, it just doesn't even feel like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Like, it doesn't have any of the same characters, it doesn't continue any storylines, and Freddy doesn't even kill people in their nightmares, he's just possessing Jesse. Like Freddy literally kills a bunch of people in a pool party in real life in this movie, which is just, it destroys all logic of Freddy Krueger. But also, to be fair, if you don't want to be a nerd about it, it's also just pretty epic when Freddy Krueger is at a pool party just slaying a bunch of people, so I really don't mind that they do that. But the point is, this is a fun movie, a funny movie, but it's a bad sequel. But their next movie, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors, oh my god, is it a certified slap. This is the first movie in the franchise where Freddy just starts becoming a lot more epic. Like, he starts having a lot more legendary one-liners.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
his kills are more creative and unique, and the practical effects in this movie are truly some of the best I've ever seen. Like, this is the first movie in the franchise where Freddy starts making like funny puns, and he becomes more of like a fun supervillain than a scary one. But while Freddy Krueger is a bit more goofy in this one, this movie still feels very serious and dark. After this movie, Freddy just becomes like really goofy, and none of the movies really feel dark or serious at all. They're just kind of a goofy fun time. So like, this movie is really just the best mix of fun Freddy but still a serious like dark movie. But it's not just Freddy that carries this movie. All the characters and the plot are both just some Zaza heat. Like, this movie takes place in a mental institution full of kids who have all seen Freddy Krueger, and obviously all the doctors think that they're crazy. But you have Nancy Thompson making a return in this one, who teaches these kids that Freddy is real, but the thing is, you can stop him. She teaches them that they can basically just be superheroes in their dreams and stop Freddy Krueger because it's their dream, so they can do whatever they want. Hence the name Dream Warriors. All the characters in this movie are like super exaggerated like 80s high school characters, but I just absolutely love it. Like, you got the classic nerd, you got the funny guy, you got the emo girl, like they got everything. And it's super dope that when they like harness their powers in the dream world, it kind of relates back to who they are, and then it gets only even cooler that every Freddy Krueger kill is like related to who they are. Like, to the emo girl who is a former drug addict, Freddy ends up shoving a bunch of needles in her arm, or there's this one girl that wants to be a movie star who Freddy like kills through the TV. And well, there's also a kid in a wheelchair who Freddy kills with a wheelchair. Like, this movie's just so fun, and the story is also very engaging. As Nancy Thompson makes a return, and there's also some wild shit with this like nun who's like related to Freddy Krueger, and you learn more about his origin story, but I'm not gonna get into that. You gotta just watch the film. There's really just so much to love about this movie, and I gotta bring it up again, but the practical effects in this movie are just out of this world. Like, they just do so much cool creative stuff in this movie. I don't know, it's just a fun time. Now, the fourth movie, on the other hand, is still an epic fun time, but it feels like it's just no longer dark or serious. Like, Freddy truly just goes full memer in this movie.
My favorite. Eeny, meeny, miny. Rick, you little meatball. I love soul food.
No! Stop!
Like, it's pretty epic, but I definitely prefer when Freddy stays like a little bit dark and serious over just him being completely goofy. Regardless, the kills in this movie definitely do not disappoint, and just like in the third movie, Freddy kills most of these kids in like similar ways to something that like has to do with them or like just messes with them. And the practical effects in this movie are all fantastic. Like, there's some gnarly stuff in this movie, along with the movie just like looking visually stunning. Like it just looks great.
Please.
The characters in this one are definitely a step down from the third.
Most
of the characters in this I really didn't
Just
care
kidding.
for, but they do have knockoff Christian Slater, who does absolutely kill it.
Please.
Well, tell you what, he's a friend of mine. I'll introduce you.
Rick?
Just kidding. But I would introduce her.
I'm not sure if most of you guys even really know who Christian Slater is, but if you do, like trust me, this guy wants to be him so bad. Like, he is Christian Slater. But again, he fucking kills it, so I'm not complaining. But again, my main issue with this movie is it's just too goofy. Like, I wish it felt a little bit more serious. But if you're looking for a goofy, wild, and wacky horror movie with some epic kills, like, this movie is it. Like this movie definitely slaps. And on top of all that, this movie has one of the most banging soundtracks of all time. Like, there's fucking bangers in this movie. Now, the fifth Nightmare on Elm Street, I'll be honest, I haven't seen in a while. But if I remember correctly, this movie's about, like, abortion. Like, there's an aborted Freddy fetus in this movie. You're like, this girl, like, becomes pregnant with Freddy.
See any family resemblance? Feeding time. Soul food for my boy.
It's just a weird plot for a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. In this movie, all the characters just suck and you really don't care for them. Like, there's literally not one character in this movie that I even liked. And the plot's stupid, the whole movie just kind of dumb, but like at this point, all you really need to look forward to in Nightmare on Elm Street movies is just cool Freddy kills. And while this movie has a couple of those, the practical effects and kills are definitely a step down from the last two. This movie is just mid. Like, the only redeeming quality about this movie is it's not as bad as the sixth one. So let's quickly talk about the sixth movie, the final movie. And holy fuck is this movie bad. Oh my god, is it terrible. Freddy's a full-on goofball in this movie as he is in like the last three movies, killing people in some Looney Tunes ass ways. And and the characters in this movie might just be some of the worst of all time. Like, Jesus Christ, is this cast just boring and uninteresting. And the finale of this movie, you know, how they finally choose to kill Freddy Krueger, you know, how they're gonna end the series, is just the lamest thing of all time. Like, I'd say the ending of all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies is a little bit lame, as like whenever they try to fight Freddy Krueger, it's just never actually that cool. But this movie just does it by far the worst. Like, I don't know, this movie just straight up bad. There's not much more I could say about it. I wish this movie was never made, and it's an insult to the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul, too!
They do have 2 more movies in this franchise. They did make a remake, which, you know, I've never seen, and they also have another movie called Freddy's New Nightmare. Freddy's New Nightmare is pretty fucking epic, but it's also not really like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Like, it's a different take on the franchise. This movie's a lot more meta, because it's literally about them making a Nightmare on Elm Street movie, and this whole movie just feels a lot more real, because, like, it just feels like it takes place in, like, real life. Like, they even meet with Wes Craven, who is the creator of Nightmare on Elm Street in this movie, and, like, they do a bunch of cool stuff. Like, it's a very cool and unique movie that I really enjoy, but it's just not really a Nightmare on Elm Street movie where, like, Freddy's just killing people in wacky ways, epic practical effects. Like, it's a different vibe. To me, Nightmare on Elm Street is one of the most unique, interesting franchises, and it has some very high highs and some very low lows. For Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm feeling A tier. Alright, originally I was also going to go over the Saw movies, but this movie is just way too long, and I'm just feeling way too lazy, so just quickly let me just say Saw is C tier. The Saw movies, they're extremely corny. The twist endings are always honestly very mid. The only thing that's good about it is the fucking song that plays after. The fucking acting, everything about it is just fucking corny. It has a similar thing to Final Destination, where the only reason you would watch this movie is to see people die in wild and wacky ways. But they do a pretty good job of that, so, you know, C tier for Saw. Now, if you made it to the end of the video, first let me just say, no fucking way. Y'all really just sat there for like 30 minutes and just listened to me ramble about horror movies, just saying the word epic and lame like 300 times. Like, what are you guys doing with your life, you know? But, you know, if you dogs really did stick it through this entire video, and not only that, you also just enjoy hearing me ramble for like 30 plus minutes, drop a fucking like on this video, drop a comment, subscribe, share this with friends, bro. All that good stuff. The only thing that really makes me happy in life, and I figured this out after like a lot of deep thought, a lot of meditation, you know, all that shit, I figured out all I really need in life is fucking views and comments on my YouTube videos. So just fucking run this shit up, bro. You know this video's heated. Show it to your friends, bro. Don't be selfish. Don't just fucking hog this video all to yourself, bro. But yeah, Beanie season is now, and as always, peace out, dog.